Yeah, I want to win the tournament, but I am, I am the best. I mean, I don't have.
So today we're covering the Championship Tour. This is the standing after round 4. Magnus Carlsen is leading. But what was today's matchup? Nakamura versus Carlsen, Armageddon. Let's watch the live stream and then let's analyze the chess.
This last move, h5. And I think it is for this reason Magnus responding with the best move, f3. And do you think the problem is that the pawn on h5 could become a weakness?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I'm a little bit surprised Hikaru didn't go for h6, just to keep things a bit more stable. Also avoiding some possibilities of bishop g5, because you don't really want your pawns to be shattered or to be fractured. So definitely Hikaru's last couple of moves have given Magnus some renewed optimism here. And we'll see. But the thing about these positions is it's only one inaccuracy from Magnus and he'll throw away the full advantage. So stop, and they're as focused as we've seen them so far in their match.
Yeah, and I think, okay, the bad news is that Magnus suddenly has a little bit of pressure. The good news is that we are suddenly up on the clock. So that is not a concern any longer. Magnus does indeed play rook e5, immediately bringing the rook to the 5th rank from where it is exerting pressure on the pawn on h5, and Hikaru lifting his queen off the back rank, looking to activate his rook from a8 on d7. Of course, the black queen is also keeping an eye on the pawn on a7. I think time is going to be a huge factor in this game, because remember, increment only kicks in on move 61. We're only on move 27, so 34 moves to go until increment kicks in, and even when it does, they'll only get a 1 second increment. So this one, it's gonna go down to the wire, and Alex, Hikaru here offering a big trade.
Yeah, I don't think he's so much offering as he's forcing it, in the sense that Magnus can't really run with his rook. But here is that problem. Magnus found a very interesting maneuver of the queen, where suddenly she was over on the queen side for so long, and suddenly in only a couple of moves, she's there in the heart of the black king side. And you have to be wondering, is Hikaru regretting his decision to play h5? Because maybe h6 had other problems, but if the pawn right now if it was on h6 right now, of course, the queen would be lost, but Magnus's last move would not have been possible. So those dark squares, and we do see some problems here showing up.
g6, I think, was just a big mistake. Could it be that Hikaru missed rook takes e6?
I think what he missed is that after bishop e5, if you go knight e8, queen h6 is threatening mate. And if you go f6, he may have missed that this pawn on g6 would fall. So this is a problem, because Hikaru is now going into the tank. He has to take the rook. There is no other move. If you take here, you're losing this knight. Maybe he's thinking knight h7, but then white would gobble up 2 pawns, and you can see it on his body language. Both players understand. And the problem is, if you go queen takes, bishop e5, you can save everything by going king g7 for now, but you walk into this horrific permanent pin. And Magnus is going for this. And unfortunately for Hikaru, I think that he's in a lot of trouble. The other thing to say is knight d7 targets the bishop, but then there's queen d8 check. And if you block with the knight, there's bishop d6, and suddenly your knight on f8 is lost. So he's going for knight e8, but there we see Magnus just snapping off queen h6. And now, unfortunately, this entire situation has happened. And the end result for now is that Magnus has picked up this pawn on a7. Magnus is now up a pawn, but it's unfortunately more than just one pawn, because white's bishop is a stronger piece, and White's king overall is also safer. So Hikaru is going to need a mistake from Magnus here to get back into the game.
This was definitely an exciting game, and in this position, Nakamura with black play h5. Given the game, maybe h6 was better because then you can still create loot for your king. Anyway, h5, f3 played because that knight here is very well positioned. So Nakamura retreats. Here, very interesting, rook e5. I like that move a lot. The rook here is well positioned. And then, after the move queen d7, we have queen e1. We're doubling over here. Nakamura wants to exchange pieces. Logical. Queen h4. So we have the queen on a5 going to e1, lining up with the rook. Beautiful geometry. The queen is coming to the king side. Rook e6. Okay, and now queen g5. We can see that white is having some pressure on the dark squares, right? And this is a critical moment of the game. You could play queen e7. That would be a move. You could even give up a pawn, continue the game. But over here, Mr. Nakamura play g6. Now, Carlsen takes. And what's going on here, right? Well, if you take with a pawn, boom, you lose a piece, right? If you play like that, I think that you could, of course, take here, but stronger would be to go on e7. If black takes, you're up a rook. So here, only move is queen e6, right? What is the problem? The problem is bishop e5. What a master move by Mr. Carlsen. And now the queen comes here, and we're threatening checkmate on the dark squares. Here, queen h6. If Nakamura played f6, we gobble over here. So he played f5. Carlsen give a check. Carlsen give a check. This is a crazy position here. And now simply gobbling this pawn. The problem for Naka is when you look at this bishop here dominating that knight over here. What do I mean by that? Look at that. No matter where that knight tries to come back, I can take it with my bishop. Now, the rest is pretty easy. I mean, they played a couple of moves, but here we have an endgame, and again, that bishop here is dominating that knight, plus you have an extra pawn. So, over here, f4 played. What is the point of f4? Is we're going to take on g5, so black takes, and we take here. We have a pass pawn here, and once again, that bishop is much stronger than that knight, and the game went very quickly because Naka was short on time. But here, clearly, we're going to take that pawn, bring it here. We also have an extra pawn over here, so Naka decided to resign. If you were to do a check, you come here, and the king comes here. You also have that pawn. So again, fantastic display by Magnus Carlsen, who remains number one, and Nakamura was struggling with the black pieces and ended up losing his match, and he still has to play hard to qualify, while Magnus will certainly qualify for the next steps. I'll see you in the next one.